Horse games need boss fights. That sounds pretty bonkers when we consider that horse games boil down to petting pony, grooming pony, breeding pony, and riding pony. But I stand by my bonkers statement. Horse games need proper boss fights. Because boss fights make games interesting, fun to play, and gives us a proper strong goal to work towards. Something which horse games are lacking, to be honest. There appears to be a blueprint being shared amongst developers where the minutiae of horse life becomes the focus instead of attempting to gamify that specific experience, which is precisely what I believe or hope a boss fight would do for a horse game. In this video, I'm going to define what it is what I mean when I say a boss fight, because I want to be clear. I don't believe we need to battle a Colossus or a Reaper or a zombie monster to make horse games interesting, but there is a framework inside boss fights that I believe games hunger for and which takes them from mediocre to great. My name is Rattle. I chat about horse games 90% of the time and sometimes complain about cat games. If that sounds interesting to you, then be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And thank you to my Ko-Fi supporters for being, as always, awesome. On with the video. To understand why the inclusion of a boss fight would make horse games better, we first need to know exactly what needs fixing. I have spoken at length about the issues with horse games, so if you want something a little bit more in-depth, you can look at these two videos. But for now, I'll summarize. Horse games suffer from the exact same problem as cozy games. They are boring. A very subjective statement, to be sure, but bear with me for a bit. In a video, Cozy Games Suck, the creator covers this exact point, noting that cozy games often demand hours upon hours of game time, but the rewards you get for that time spent is lackluster and not worth it. And that is the core of it. The rewards do not match the effort, which ends up giving a lower dopamine rush, which turns our brains off, which makes the game boring. Rewards are extremely important in games, and this problem extends to our beloved horse game genre. We find ourselves grinding hours of game time, where we repeat the same exact races over and over again, groom our horses over and over again, feed our horses over and over again, and the rewards are just, well, more horses. We don't feel like we're really doing anything other than just that, following the same route. The gameplay can be smooth, but when a game starts to feel tedious, like we're doing chores for minimal reward, that is exactly when a game developer should be asking, what can I add to make the player want to move forward? And this is usually when you add a boss fight, or at least the framework of one. So what is the framework of a boss fight, and why do I keep calling it that? A boss fight is basically the powerful foe we face at the end of a chapter or the entire game. It tests our skills, it tests our focus, our reflexes, and sometimes our very minds. We are usually clued in that a boss fight is coming by the monologue, the dramatic music, and the unskippable cutscenes curse you. In an article from game developer Boss Battle Design and Structure, the writer breaks down the 4 components of what makes a boss battle so important to a game. The boss should feel like a reward. The boss should feel like a goal or milestone for the player. By fighting the boss, the player can demonstrate his mastery of my game. A boss fight can help build and release tension in a satisfying way. Combat is, clearly by this definition, a fundamental part of it, but it doesn't have to be. Although I love the idea of a horse game with magical battles or bloodshed, I don't think the answer lies in fundamentally changing horse games or cozy games. Instead, let's rather take a look at each of these elements and see how they can be applied to horse games and how that could help horse games. Demonstrate mastery. Let's get this out of the way first. We have to define what we can expect from a boss fight for a horse game, because right now I have very angry people telling me in the comment section that I do not understand what a boss fight is. Boss fights are about combat, you absolute fucking nitwit. Or is it? In Fallout the original, your final boss is the Master, a large computer that is trying to save the world in its own twisted way. The scene has no combat. The entire battle is a debate about if humans should be saved and if mutants are the future. The skills being tested here is your thoroughness, your willingness during your journey to be curious and interested in the world around you. If you searched long and hard enough, you would have found the answer to give the Master and save humanity. And this is considered a boss fight, because this was your end game. Throughout your story, you were slowly working towards this specific point. A boss fight need not be something grand or big you should defeat. It can be a conversation, or like in Planescape Torment, the answer to a question. But let's take it a step further. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney has boss fights. Again, not in the traditional sense where we have bullets, bazookas, and taking a missile to the face. Instead, our Ace Attorney has to go up against the best prosecutor in the courthouse, Miles Edgeworth. Your boss fight boils down to having the correct information, knowing the suspect's stories, and being ready to raise that classic objection at the right time. And it is tense. In both of these examples, you are being tested within the context of the game, and that is exactly what horse games need. A boss fight that fits inside the parameters of a horse game. This could include competitions, a wild horse you have to tame, a rival, perhaps a sick horse that you need to save. All of these can be a boss fight in the sense that it is a challenge that tests your skills to their max. In Horse Tales Emerald Valley Ranch, they almost had this right. They started teasing the Emerald Valley Devil, a wild horse you had to tame. The build-up was certainly good, and we'll talk about that build-up in a bit. And the idea was sound. You've been taming wild horses since the start of the story. Having a particularly difficult horse to tame could be a great test of that skill we've been working on. Although the resulting taming was pretty, well, lame, the developers did have something good in mind here. The Devil could have been an excellent example of a sort of boss fight in a horse game, where it tested your skills. But to make a boss fight truly rewarding, it needs to have a reward. And to make a boss fight truly appealing, it needs to be a goal. Reward and goal. I am lumping these two together because in a lot of ways they overlap. What is rewarding for a player? Tough one to answer, because different players will find different things obviously rewarding. One player will think cool loot is awesome, while another player might find resolution to stories more so. I am in the latter category. But it's not really about the reward itself. It is if the reward balances out the resources spent. And yes, time is also a resource. Grinding is a time resource, and when you are grinding for 10, 13, 30, 50 hours on end for a reward that doesn't feel worth it, you won't keep playing. Cozy games in particular suffer from this agony. Game developers seem to have forgotten that good stories are so damn important, because stories directly create goals. In Disco Elysium, the story is about solving a murder. So my goal is to investigate the body, do interviews, and eventually solve that murder. Simple goal, simply created, clearly entwined with the story. In Pokemon's Pokopia, the current juggernaut of cozy games, you are in a post-apocalyptic world, and you're working to fix it, to make it habitable again. That is your end goal, and boss fights go hand in hand with stories. Through dialogue or environment storytelling, we are subconsciously or consciously looking forward or dreading the incoming threat. But I hear you typing, telling me that you ignore the story and that you only play for the grind, so my argument is stupid. And onto that I say, burn the heathens! I'm kidding. You don't really need an in-depth story, to be frank. You need something to dangle in front of the player. Let's take another granddaddy of cozy games, Stardew Valley. It has a combat, we'll ignore that. It has a lot of grinding, we'll embrace that. But most importantly, it has a clear goal. Fix the community center. It might not be something you're focusing on, but whenever you find yourself wondering what to do, you have this tangible goal, fix the community center. It is the overarching plot, the light tug that keeps you moving forward whenever you come to a standstill. It is your driving force. You will notice that I am using a lot of cozy game examples, and the reason for that is because cozy games are often touted as the cozy grind concept, but I still think that they benefit from good stories, or at least good goals. But the goal has to fit in with the game you're playing. Making the goal save the world by building a death machine in a cozy game might kill the vibe. And having the goal be fix the community center in Skyrim would probably not be the most motivating. Which is brilliant because we actually have the perfect boss for horse games. The Rival. Rivals are excellent for horse games. They create instant tension, make an immediate goal, and they test our skills. In recent years, as games started to focus more and more on the no game only cozy vibes design, rivals in horse games have just kind of been weaned out, which is so tragic because, oh my word, they are missing a gold mine. Let's have a look at Need for Speed Most Wanted. In this game, we have a list of rivals we have to beat in a race. Each of these racers drive different cars and different tracks, making them each unique in their own way. For example, muscle cars are brilliant at quick acceleration, but they're terrible at taking corners. So when you're up against a guy driving a muscle car, chances are good he's going to pick a track that gives him the edge he needs. Straights. You have to think around that and consider your own skills and car type in order to beat him. Isn't this just perfect for a horse game? We have a string of rivals. We might have a rival that is always quick around the track. She is brilliant at jump-offs but tends to knock oxers because she doesn't slow down. We could have a rider who is slow and methodical. He rarely knocks a pole, but he is not that great at the jump-offs. We can make these rival characters, give their horses personalities, give them stories, so that when I beat them, I have something to tell as well. Horse games already have the very essence of a good boss fight in their DNA. Developers should just be willing to embrace it. Let me get excited, let me be nervous, let me feel the stakes of my loss or win, and most importantly, let it feel like it matters. The really frustrating part of all of this, though, is that horse games once had great rivals. The Pippa Funnel series is an excellent example of this. They had really good, fun, kind of bitchy rivals, and they made the game memorable. But for some inexplicable reason, developers seem to have abandoned or just fumbled the rival in recent years. Horsetail's Emerald Valley Ranch got their rival within the first hour of the game, making us best friends. Bonded Spirits has no rival, just an annoying character complaining about a bridge. And Star Stable Online deliberately pulled our rival's teeth to make her more family-friendly. The point to all of this, though, is that having some lure to work towards is so important for games. And having that lure mean something, offer a good reward, test our skills, and be part of the story will realize and illuminate the most important part of why horse games desperately need boss fights. It creates a moment. And games are made up of moments. From the battle with Bowser in Super Mario to the Omega 4 relay in Mass Effect 2, answering the witch's question in Planescape, the battle with the Ninetales in Okami, Professor Pig in Arkham Knight, confronting Hell in Senua. I could go on. These are moments in the gaming world that defined it, that we discuss to this day. And this is really what we're missing in horse games. Moments. The goosebumps, revelations, and thrill of a job well done, or even the softer moment of a town saved and a character happy. You can keep it simple, like save the town, or give all the wild horses a home, or find the secret of the mystery. It can really be anything, but let it create those moments. Give us something that challenges us and that makes us engage with your game. I am not advocating for horse games to be turned into war games. That is not productive and it will hurt the genre. Rather, I am advocating for horse games to have more emotional resonance, goals, focus, and not just grind.